Now, what I'd like to talk about for this section of the teaching is briefly again to describe the 6 realms of cyclic existence. This is a traditional teaching, and I'm really not doing it any justice by doing it this quickly, but please remember that I am not going to show you this so that you really learn this. You should not walk away from this and think, yeah, I know all about the 6 realms of cyclic existence, because when you leave this room, you won't. You do know about this one a little bit, though. All that this is meant to show you is how a Buddhist thinks. So let me begin to explain to you very briefly what this is all about. According to the Buddhist teaching, we are, and these are the words that are given in our practices, wandering endlessly in cyclic existence. When they say wandering, they mean just that. They mean wandering because we're literally going or moving with our eyes closed, blinded to our own nature, and completely and totally fixated on the belief in self-nature as being inherently real, on this bounce-back phenomena of subjective, objective experience. So when they say wandering in cyclic existence, they mean just that. With no sense, with no taste of our nature, we walk blinded through this experiential field that is based on a false supposition. That is the belief in self-nature as being inherently real, and all the desire and all the compulsion that arises from that. According to the Buddhist teachings, we experience death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth, in an endless cycle, an endless round of experience. We feel a relative stability because we're sitting here in this chair. Well, don't even bother. You don't have time, because pretty soon you're going to die and be reborn again. Which sounds wonderful, because you think, gee, it's just an endless adventure. It goes on and on. Well, the problem with that is this. You don't know where you're going to be next. Because you may be here in America having a fine old time now, but you are going to get old and you're going to die. We've already talked about that. I don't need to harp on that too much. But you will be reborn, and when you are reborn, first of all, when you die, you go through what we call the Bardo experience, or the intermediate experience, in which one actually sees or views the content of one's mind in an externalized form, almost like flashed on the screen, in front of you. If you have a lot of hatred and anger in your mind, you will view that as what looks to you like demons. If you have a lot of virtue and loving kindness in your minds, you will view that in what looks to you as very beautiful and seductive kind of experience. Hidden beneath that very kind of experience is the truer experience which occurs to everyone after they die. When the elements dissolve and the consciousness is more fluid, and the elements that bind us are dissolved, what we experience at that time actually is our own nature. But if we are deluded and fixated, we don't perceive it as such. We actually see the nature of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but we don't recognize them. If we recognize them through the force of our meditation, at the time of our death, the revelation of the appearance of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as being the same as our own mind would be so overwhelming that the connection would be as strong as the recognition of a child to its mother. And we would run into the arms of enlightenment. But we don't, because we are so fixated on self-nature. However, if we learn to meditate and do the causes and accomplish the causes that I've just described, that very experience is possible in the after-death state. For most people, however, they experience hatred, greed, and ignorance, because this is the content of our mind stream. We have a lot of self-concern, and a lot of craving and desire and grasping, which we call greed. We have a lot of anger. You know you have anger. Everyone's got anger, which we call hatred. And ignorance. Ignorance is not like barefoot and pregnant. In Buddhist terminology, ignorance means the lack of awareness of the primordial wisdom state. That's what ignorance means to a Buddhist. It means the lack of being awake, as the Buddha is awake. Here we're looking at a drawing which depicts the realm or the continual experience of cyclic existence. Oh, I should say before I continue that what I've described is what one experiences in the bardo state. When one actually takes rebirth, according to how one responds to the bardo or intermediate state, according to how one responds to it, some of the karmic potential or karmic seeds that are latent and present within our mind stream will ripen. And for instance, if we have hatred within our mind stream and perceive the content of our mind stream as being some sort of demon kind of thing or some sort of thing that makes us afraid, we will respond with fear. And if we respond with fear, we will try to take rebirth as soon as possible and blindly go into the next rebirth. And it is possible that we could take rebirth as a lower life form. It is possible that we could take rebirth as a form that is not what we want. Even if we were to achieve a precious human rebirth, we could be born in Calcutta easily. Or we could be born as the offspring of parents who have AIDS. And we ourselves could have AIDS. I'm just giving you some examples off the top of my head. But there's no way to predict how karma will ripen. And that is the unpredictability of cyclic existence. At the core of our experience, however, is hatred, greed, and ignorance. And this is a picture that kind of typifies or exemplifies the experience. This gruesome-looking being is considered to be the Lord of Death, because it does govern the entire experience of cyclic existence. Now let's see here. Where are we? We can start with the human realm. Is that right? Yeah. The human realm. Haven't looked at this in a long time. You'll have to excuse me. I have to get my bearings. And we know that it is possible to be reborn in the human realm because we ourselves have been reborn in the human realm. The human realm of all of the 6 realms of cyclic existence is considered to be the most precious because it is the only realm in which one can actually practice Dharma in order to achieve realization. In all the other realms, the preoccupation with experience is too tight and too hard to the degree that one cannot actually experience, one cannot actually meditate, one cannot actually contemplate, one cannot practice, actually, even in the what are called the higher rebirths, such as the God realm. In the human realm, our main suffering is is old age, sickness, and death. All of us experience old age, sickness, and death if we live that long. And there is no escape from that. The only way to escape from that is to die younger. Think about that. One cause for being reborn as a human, as opposed to being born, as opposed to appearing miraculously in the state of enlightenment, is doubt. What are you feeling right now when you hear these funny stories? Doubt. And you have to look at that. You have to put that outside yourself and say, this is one of the obstacles to my practice. It's natural. Everyone in the human realm experiences doubt. We have the chronic habitual tendency of only seeing what we believe and can hold in our hands. We don't even believe that there are other non-physical realms. Well, we've heard about them and we think maybe it might be possible, and we think maybe we might have lived before, but we don't know for sure. If someone were to say to us, do you want to put your faith in this dollar bill you have in front of you as to what it can do for you? Or do you want to set your watch by the fact that you have lived before? You take the dollar every time. It's our nature. It's the karma of our minds. We experience this kind of doubt. And it is this doubt that is the biggest obstacle to our practice. Even so, to be reborn a human is the best possible option, because here we can practice Dharma. You all can come up and look at these pictures after we're finished here. Another rebirth in a higher realm, in the next highest realm, is considered to be rebirth in the long life God's realm. The long life God's realm is unique in that the suffering of that realm actually has to do with pleasure. Well, you think, I'd like to suffer like that. That would be great. But in actuality, in that realm, it really is a suffering. In that realm, one has to have tremendous good karma, actually, to be reborn in that realm. But one also has to have the karma of pride, and that is one of the, on the negative side, that is the main cause for being reborn in the God realm, as opposed to being miraculously born in an enlightened way. Pride, and one has to have, like I say, a great amount of good karma. That means that one has causes that produce pleasure. And that unique combination of pridefulness and good causes in one's past produce rebirth in a God realm. Now, the God realm sounds like where you want to have a vacation. It is a very nice place to be. They say that in the God realm, music is such a total experience that one can feel it in one's pores, and it heals instantly. That scent is such a complete experience that it can be called sensual and erotic, and it can, again, can heal completely. Any sense, smell, touch, taste, sight, can be so overwhelmingly potent that it consumes one, that one is completely intoxicated by it. Doesn't that sound like a great good time? Well, the problem is, I know you're over there shaking your head. Well, let's see what I can do about this. How do you get into that place? Well, the problem with that, and there's some other added benefits. People, the gods in the God realm are extremely, excruciatingly beautiful. They are just incredibly beautiful. They just take your eyes away. It blows your mind. Extremely, excruciatingly beautiful. Their bodies are sweetly scented. It's an all-pervasive scent of sweetness. And the skin is so pure. And even the imprint of their footsteps is beautiful to behold. They are so, and they live a couple of thousand years. Our time, long time, thousands of years. That sounds great. So see, there's a problem here. And the problem is that they are so intoxicated with the smelling and tasting and walking and looking so good. You know how intoxicating that can get. And, they're sort of doing their thing. They're listening to music and they're lollygagging around. And pretty soon you can use up a couple of thousand years that way real fast. You can get into it, as they say. And so they get really into it, and it's so beautiful and it's lovely, and they swim in this water that's like nectar, and everything they taste is the elixir of life, and they're getting drunk on it and they're having a good time. And pretty soon 2,000 years is gone. And when 2,000 years is gone, suddenly they begin to change. And the way that they begin to change is suddenly they're not quite as sweet-smelling as they used to be. But what happens is the other gods and goddesses who want only to remain fixated in that intoxication that they're experiencing start to move away from them. And pretty soon they get as far away from them as they possibly can, because even though they don't smell bad, they don't smell anything like us. They don't smell bad, they just don't smell as good. And pretty soon they begin to notice that they're deteriorating. Something's happening here. They're not quite as beautiful as they were. And suddenly it's like their high is wearing off, you know? They're beginning to be aware of something else besides this beautiful sense and luxury that they're experiencing. And suddenly, when the fortunate karma that they've been burning like an 8-cylinder engine going up a mountain starts to really wear off. You know what an 8-cylinder engine going up a mountain does? You remember 8-cylinder engines? You don't? Gosh, aren't you young? It's what I grew up on. Anyway, they burn up gas real fast. It's like driving 3 cars at once today. When they start burning up all of that karma, when they've used it all up with this fabulous kind of existence that they've had, and their karma begins to run out, the accumulation of fortunate causes begins to wear out, to run out, then what happens is they begin to realize that they've been intoxicated all this time. And they begin to realize that they've just used up everything that they have accumulated for aeons. Spent all their money, gone, blotto. And they begin to deteriorate and they realize they are about to die from the God's realm. What they also realize at that time, because they have a touch of clairvoyance, is they look down and they realize that there is nowhere to go but a lower rebirth. And the reason why is that they've used up all of their accumulated wealth of good causes. It's really burning up a lot of gas. So it's not a good place to be in. And at that time they get no help from others. The other gods and goddesses are still involved in their intoxication and they don't want anything to do with them. And they are pretty much left to this experience alone. That is, in terms of pleasurable environment, that is considered to be like the most pleasurable environment. And it is considered to be a higher rebirth in that one does not suffer in that rebirth, but one suffers at the death, at the cessation of that particular episode. Then, beneath that and before the human rebirth is what is called the jealous God's realm. And the jealous God's realm is also a God realm in which there is a great deal of wealth, and there is a different kind of intoxication, and that intoxication is on power. And the cause for being reborn as the jealous God is just that: competitiveness, power hunger, and jealousy. In that realm, there is constant warfare. So there is suffering in that realm from warfare. But still, it isn't like the kind of, there is a constant suffering from warfare, but it's the kind of strange suffering that we have in this realm where we have suffering, but we also have pleasure, so we can really convince ourselves that we're okay. You know, we're still getting older and we're still getting sick sometimes and we still might get hit by a car and all these funny things are happening, but we're still basically okay, so we consider that we're not suffering too much, and it's kind of like that. In this jealous God's realm, the gods are very powerful, they are very jealous, they are very demanding, they constantly have warfares with other gods, they constantly become involved with the human realm and sometimes with other realms in order to utilize them for their warfare projects, whatever they might be. There are some that have said, I don't know that this is true myself because I've never had any direct revelation of this, but there are some that say that the Old Testament God Jehovah is actually a jealous God and belongs to that realm because he exhibited all of the characteristics. He ran around blasting everybody and tried to get everybody to love him and not somebody else, and you know, that kind of thing. That some of those stories really sound like a lot like the jealous gods. Anyway, and then there's the human realm, which I've already described, and I wanted to start with that because we know that this is true. This is one that we've seen, and we also know that we are experiencing doubt, and I wanted to make that clear. Right under the human realm is the animal realm. We also know that there are animals, right? We can all agree on that? Good. We've seen animals, so we know that they exist. The cause for being reborn in the animal realm is dullness. Dullness, or what the word translates as stupidity, but it's not. It doesn't sound good because it sounds like we're calling animals bad names, and we all love animals, all that stuff. But there is what we're looking at the consciousness of animals. They are not able to absorb the kind of teaching that they need to absorb in order to achieve realization. They can't really study. I mean, they're trainable. Some of them you can make them jump through a hoop. It's not like they can't be taught anything. But they can't think or reason or be taught in the way that humans do. They can't absorb philosophy in the way that we do. They are tightly reactive. That is to say, they are so tightly involved in their phenomenal fixation as to be completely and utterly reactive. If you watch a dog, you'll see that that's true. The dog is constantly and continuously reactive. That's what it does. It doesn't have any spaciousness between the act and between the event and the reaction. There is no moment to think of that. The difference between an animal and us, hopefully, is we have that tiny little bit of spaciousness in which we can consider and formulate in a creative way some kind of impression. But an animal really can't do that. It is tightly reactive. And so that's called ignorance or stupidity or dullness. The suffering of the animal realm is that they are constantly being pursued by one another, and they are defenseless against their predators. They are constantly being eaten by one another, and they are also at the mercy of human beings. Human beings will kill oysters for their pearls, and they will eat animals, and they will, cause them to plow and do all the things that human beings do to animals. So they are suffering greatly from that. The next lowest realm after that is called the hungry ghost realm. In the hungry ghost realm, these beings are not visible to our eyes, so we have no direct understanding that they are possible. We don't know that. We can only, the way that we have to consider this information is that you think of the Buddha is the one that gave us this information. You think of the Buddha as being like a cameraman who went across, on the other side of the world where we can't see, and filmed China, and showed us China, and brought us back the films. So now we know that China is there. You wouldn't say there really is no China because you know someone has seen it who can see it. And you know that it's been recorded, and you know that China is there. So in the same way, the Buddha has described this place because he is able to see it with his omniscience, to perceive that place, and he is able to describe it in the same way that a camera could record and describe for us. The cause for being reborn in the hungry ghost realm is grasping or desire. In the hungry ghost realm, the beings are described as often looking like they have very small mouths and very big stomachs, and that they are weak from hunger. They can hardly ever have what they need. They're constantly needing, and not able to get what they need. They experience both physical and other kinds of hunger and cannot be satisfied. They have the unfortunate karma of mixed, strange perception. That is to say, right here I have a glass of delicious tea, and I can taste it, and it seems to me like tea. Very good, I get to drink in class. If I were in the long life God realm, and I were picking up this glass, the experience would be exquisite, and this would be like the nectar, nectar, the elixir of life. I would be drunk with one taste and healed completely. In the hungry ghost realm, in the human realm, it tastes like tea. It's good. In the hungry ghost realm, it would taste like, you're going to hate this, pus. Some substance that you couldn't eat. Well, as a human, I can taste it and it seems fine, but their perception is askew because of their greed and desire. So, beyond that, there is rebirth in what is called the hell realm. And there are different kinds of hell realm experiences, which I don't want to go into in any great depth at this time. But the main cause for being reborn in a hellish realm is hatred and anger. In the hell realms, there is obviously tremendous suffering. In all of these realms, except for the human realm, there is such a total preoccupation with whatever particular experience is being experienced that there is no spaciousness to practice. There is no leisure to practice. That's the term that's used. But it means spaciousness in the mind to practice. Does this sound like fairy tale to you? Do you think that this is not possible? First of all, this is what the Buddha has seen, and I have to assume that of the two of us, the Buddha is less deluded than me. If I can only see what I can only see, I have to assume that it's because of my delusion. If the Buddha can see these 6 realms, I have to assume it's because of his wisdom. Secondarily, the cause for being reborn in a hellish realm is hatred. Is there anyone here that can say they have no anger and hatred in their mind? I don't think so. Have any of you ever had a nightmare? A frightening nightmare from which you felt that you could not escape? Then you can see that you have the potential to create the phenomena of a hellish realm. It's the same. It is not different from the ability to create a nightmare from which you cannot escape. Have you ever felt or seen, have you ever yourself been or seen someone that is so needy that their life is like miserable? Haven't you ever met people like that? And have you ever gone through a period like that yourself? Just so needy, so needy. It's like, have you ever met a person you felt like was like a big gaping hole and you felt like you could just throw love in there and it would never top up? Have you ever met people like that? There are lots of people like that in the world, and we ourselves have experienced extremely needy periods. So we know from that experience that it is possible to have a kind of hungry ghost phenomena. Except again, it would be a dreamlike state from which one could not wake up. Have we ever been prideful, arrogant, deluded by thinking we were better than the other people we're with? Did you ever get so beautiful that you just think you're hot stuff? Did you ever think you smelled better than everybody else in the room? I do. I wear Estee Lauder. There are lots of people that have that kind of pridefulness. Haven't you seen it? Haven't you seen people that are arrogant? And haven't you looked at those same people and said, what are they being arrogant about? I don't get it. They're not that great. It's the same kind of delusion process, but it's like being in a dream and not being able to wake up. We can see a reflection of the karma for all of these kinds of phenomena within our own mind. We can see the reflection of it. So how can we doubt? How can we think that it is impossible to experience that to the degree that we feel we cannot wake up? We have within us all kinds of cause and effect relationships. Don't forget, we have been creating cause and effect since time out of mind. That's a long time ago. We have seed causes planted within our mind stream that we don't know about. And what about jealousy and competitiveness? Have you ever been so angry at somebody that all you wanted to do was get their goat and you were hell-bent? It's all you could think about. And then realize that you would put yourself in hell doing it? Did you ever do that? You ever seen other people that live that way? They run around seething at, frothing at the mouth constantly, thinking that they want to just be right and get somebody else's goat. We can see these things in our own mind, the impressions of them, kind of like footprints in the sand. How can we doubt that this is possible if we see it within us? Now, what does this have to do with Buddhist thinking? Buddha teaches us that all of these realms exist and that we all have the karma to be reborn in any one of them, from the very lowest to the very highest to the very most productive. The Buddha teaches us, therefore, that we have the right, the power, and the responsibility to produce the causes that will ripen the auspicious karma in order to be reborn in an auspicious way. In other words, there is no predestination, there is nobody's doomed, nobody's jinxed. Each of us has the same story. We have both good and unfortunate, that is to say, beneficial and unfortunate karmic potential within our mind streams, and each of us can practice composition, offering, generosity, attentiveness, recitation, memorization, teaching, praying, contemplation, and meditation to the degree that we want to, in order to produce the auspicious rebirth. So nobody's special, nobody's flawed, nobody's damaged, nobody's brain dead, and nobody's different. While you're human, you have the option to do all of these things. But understanding that these things are all possible for all of us, you must make use of your time now. There is a certain urgency in Buddhist philosophy where we just really stress again and again and again, please make use of this fortunate human rebirth. Don't waste your time. If there is a push to do as much as you can, it isn't to entrap you or to tell you there's only one right way or to make one religion seem better than another religion. It's only so that you will use your time effectively and courageously, because there's such a little bit of it. This human life is, they describe it as being like a waterfall going down a mountain. It appears stable. The waterfall going down the mountain's been going down for 2,000 years. But where's the drop of water that was 2,000, that even a minute ago was going down the mountain? It's down. And that's how our lives are. They appear stable, but they go by in a flash. We need to take this opportunity and to really use it. Why, as a Buddhist, aren't we infatuated with the idea of gods and demigods and big things like that? The way religions talk about gods and goddesses and demigods and stuff like that. And why aren't we infatuated? Because we think that they are part of cyclic existence. Long life gods, they can grant blessings. I can wave their hands and make everybody smell good and do all kinds of stuff. But does it get anybody enlightened? Hello? No. And do they themselves have enlightenment? No. So what's the big deal? You waiting around for somebody to give you a blessing? Well, you can keep on waiting if you want to. You can also practice. You could do what my daughter does. You can practice Doda, or you can practice Dharma. About, going to heaven, going to God, it's to a Buddhist, this is all part of the perceptual experience. It's all phenomena. Anything that you can describe, heaven, hell, it's all phenomena. It's just phenomenal experience. I wouldn't take hell lightly. I'm going to do my best to stay out of there, to not have that kind of experience. I'm going to do my best to achieve Buddhahood. I'm not saying that phenomena doesn't exist. You want me to convince you that phenomena exists right now? I'll come up and pinch you until it hurts. Pinch a knot in you, and then you'll see that phenomena really exists. So we're not denying that that really exists, but what we are saying is that all of this phenomena, this circus that we can get involved with, is only that. It's merely phenomena. The goal that a Buddhist applies themselves to is much beyond that. It is completely beyond the fixation required to be involved in cyclic existence. It is a pure, awakened awareness. It is not a goal that can be externalized. Even when we talk about being reborn in Daewa-chen, being reborn in Daewa-chen, when you actually practice the path for a very long time, sounds like being reborn in heaven, and in one sense it is. But what is actually meant by that is to be reborn in the Dharmakaya state. That is to be reborn in a state of pure, undefiled awareness. To arise, to die to ignorance and to be reborn in undefiled, pure awareness. That is the meaning of that. And that is the only goal of a Buddhist. If you hear the goal described as different than that, then you're not hearing the whole story, because you either cannot hear the whole story, or because who is describing it to you is not describing it in totality, or because you're at a level that's how the teaching is taught at that level. But you must understand, if you really want to get the big picture, what the Buddhist is after is Buddhahood, is awakening. There is no external goal. There is no conceptual process that is any different from any other. It is the liberation from all such process and all such fixation, because these are the very building blocks for all of the suffering that we have ever experienced. It is the complete liberation from all these things. That is the goal. So it's after 4 now, and that's our teaching for today. I can take 1 or 2 questions if you like. I don't usually do that, but since this is a beginning class, we can, if anyone has one. Yes?
If that woman can attain enlightenment. So
well, I don't know what book that you're reading, but I can explain to you what my teachers have told me about this. First of all, there is the Vinaya point of view. And the Vinaya point of view says that in Daewa-chen, which you could consider to be synonymous with enlightenment, there are no women. The Vajrayana point of view is a more developed, and that's a continuation of the Buddha's original teaching. Remember, the Buddha spoke to who he was with. He spoke to the level of understanding of who he was with. The people that heard that teaching had the karma to hear that teaching. And the people that did not hear certain things did not have the karma to hear certain things. When he continued the teaching, when the teaching continued to develop, he brought about the Vajrayana point of view. The Vajrayana point of view, which is what we practice here, hears that completely differently. And what that means is in the state of Daewa-chen, or in the state of enlightenment, there are no women. That means there are no ordinary women. That means that all women are goddesses. And that's how we view women in this tradition. They are the mother of all the Buddhas. They are the very essence of Tara herself. And that is the true understanding.
So it's more an evolution than something else?
Not so much as an evolution as if you can understand, it's almost like the Buddha spoke his teaching and each person heard it in their language. Like that. But the real teaching, I mean, I wouldn't say realer, that's a questionable way to put it. The teaching that you are capable of understanding, and that I would say to you, and this is the Buddhist teaching, is that in the mind of enlightenment, in the state of precious awakening, all women are viewed as the mother of the Buddhas. They are viewed as the goddess. Actually, in the Vajrayana tradition, Guru Rinpoche himself said that of men and women, women have the highest capacity for enlightenment. He said that. He also said, let's see, what's some of the other things that he said? Oh, no, not what he said, but also the lamas, for instance, when they recognized a reincarnate female, they call the reincarnate female recognition, they call her Jetsunma. When they recognize a male reincarnate, they call him Rinpoche. Jetsunma is actually a higher title. And it's actually because the female is considered to be synonymous with emptiness. So that's the deeper understanding. Come over here and let me pinch you. You want me to pinch you and show you why we make distinction? See if you can...
No, I mean the distinction
between men and women, right? If I can pinch you for a minute, I'll show you why we make a distinction, because it's going to feel different when I pinch you than when I stop pinching you, and you won't be able to deny that. I've got some mean claws. Now, it's the same thing. You cannot deny relative view. In relative view, she's a woman and you're a man. And that's what you see. Why do we make a big deal about it? Because you are making a big deal about it. You see yourself as a man, and you see her as a woman. That's why. In relative view, this is what we experience, and the Buddha teaches us not to deny relative view. This is the karma of our mind. This is what we're experiencing. I experience you as a man, and I experience myself as a woman. And if I pinch you very hard, you will experience that pain. Believe me, you will experience it. And if I stop, it will feel, oh, so much better. And you can't deny that. And if you try to deny that, you get a little crazy and neurotic. That isn't what the Buddha teaches us to do. The Buddha does not teach us to deny that. The Buddha teaches us to understand that there is relative view, but that there is also absolute view. We have to be intelligent about relative view. Remember, the Buddha had the two kinds of accumulations, the accumulation of knowledge of all cause and effect and all phenomenal existence, and also the accumulation of wisdom, which is the realization of absolute emptiness. Two kinds. The Buddha was not a ninny because he was enlightened. He knew that there were men and women in the relative point of view. See what I'm saying? You have to have both kinds of awareness. You cannot deny one for the other. But what you do is you keep purifying the perception, and the perception naturally changes. As you accomplish these practices, you will come to view her as the goddess. And the term male and female will be meaningless. And you will come to understand yourself as the meditational deity. So those terms will become meaningless. But you'll never be unable to recognize them. You'll still know she's a girl.
Even in religion?
Yeah, because she's going to look like a goddess, though.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. I thought that, I don't really know anything about this, but in Daewachan I thought that we were beyond the relative view.
But you see, the picture that you're painting is once you attain realization, they have to put like a white coat on you and wrap your hands around your back or around your front, however it goes, and then they give you a drool bucket. It's not like that. It's just not like that. The Buddha was a fully realized Buddha, but he was walking around having conversations with everybody, and he could eat with his own fork. If that's, and I mean, if you were an enlightened being right now, you wouldn't get out and walk in front of a taxi. I mean, you know that the taxi's there. You can still carry on a conversation. You're still real. I mean, you're still operative. You're still operative. You don't suddenly walk into a fugue and forget that there's a difference between men and women.
No, but isn't there
Or walk into the wrong locker room with a spa. That would be really horrible. So you're enlightened. I just don't know what to do.
after which you get beyond the 6 realms of cyclic existence? So, I mean, do you still have male and femaleness, maleness and femaleness?
When you are beyond the 6 realms of cyclic existence, when you awaken to the primordial nature, you are aware of the nature, period. You are awake to that, period. But it doesn't mean that you cannot then turn your attention and be fully aware of the realm of relativity also. You can also do that. You can be fully aware of it. In fact, remember, these are the two accumulations of the Buddha. Full awareness of knowledge. Full awareness of all relativity. Full awareness of all cause and effect. And full awareness of that primordial wisdom nature. Two simultaneous, synonymous accumulations that the Buddha has. But the difference, what you're asking is, what's the difference? Okay, what the difference is that we as sentient beings are caught. You are caught. You cannot see the nature. You only remain fixated. Whereas in enlightenment, one is awake to that nature and can view the fixation. Gyaltsen Rinpoche described to me how it is that lamas have obstacles that have themselves attained realization. And he said to me, it's like this. He said, lamas get sick, lamas get old. Do you know why? If the lama is a reincarnate lama, it's said that they've had realization and all the signs and all that yada yada stuff. Then they reincarnate and they come back into the world, and it's very much like a person who doesn't smoke walking into a room where there's a bunch of smokers. You're going to smell like smoke. But you yourself are not a smoker. You have no habit, no habitual tendency, and remain detached from the process. It's like that. Or walking into a room where everybody else is eating garlic. Oh, sounds like a hell realm to me. You're going to smell like garlic. Everyone around you is going to smell like garlic. You can't get away from the garlic, but you yourself do not have that smell. It's like that. One more question. Really, just one. Yes?
You talked about doubt and experience. What about faith?
What about it?
Faith.
What about it?
You think faith plays a role in Buddhism?
Yeah.
And what is it?
But it's a different, I think that what I've seen, and this is my own impression, I have seen other religions exalt the idea of what looks to me like blind faith. You should simply believe because our fathers before us have believed, kind of thing. And that's just the word, and it's kind of like that. A Buddhist is asked to have faith, but a Buddhist is asked to have faith based on the fact that this was the Buddha who produced the teaching that brought about this enlightenment with visible signs. So you are asked to, it's more like an intelligent choice rather than it is faith. It's more like you can decide whether you want to go with the things that have not proved themselves to produce consistently good results, or you can go with the practice that has proved itself to have consistently good results. So you would have faith in that practice, but it's more like an intelligent faith, an open-eyed faith, based on certain events, based on certain qualifications. You would not be asked to have blind faith, let's say, in a teacher that did not prove themselves capable of rendering the teaching and did not prove themselves capable also by virtue of their own realization. See what I'm saying? So it's like it's a choice faith. It isn't. Now, what a lot of times Westerners, when they come into Buddhism, they're a little dismayed because they're used to the kind of emotionalism that we have in Western religions. We have Christmas carols, and we have the joy of resurrection on Easter, and we have, all these different things that are like real heart grabbers. You really kind of get used to that. And in Buddhism, suddenly everything's philosophical, and you have to be smart and make intelligent choices, and you're like, ugh. You really can hardly get over that hump. Well, in Buddhism, we actually have devotion. And the devotion, again, is based on viewing the teacher as the one who brings us the teachings about the Buddha, the one who brings us the path, the one who calls together the Sangha. And because the teacher is representative of those three things, we have devotion for the teacher, and we have devotion for the Buddha, most especially, as the one who brought these teachings. We think of them as the door to liberation, that without them, this realization would really not be possible. So we think of them as the door to liberation, and we think of them with the same kind of fervent regard that one would consider one door the only exit in a burning room. we're talking big time devotion. I mean, if you're in a burning room and there's one door there and that room's getting really hot, suddenly you are devoted. You want the door. It's kind of like that. And actually, I'm making light of it just to make a joke, because it's my nature to do so, but in Buddhism, one considers one's teacher as the door to liberation. One considers the Buddha as the door to liberation, and the Dharma and the Sangha with such fervent regard that one should practice and pray faithfully until tears come to the eyes. One should practice that kind of devotion. And if it doesn't come naturally, one should practice until it does. So many Americans have some confusion in the terminology. Many Americans would be satisfied with that as faith and understand that to be faith. But again, our faith is based on intelligent, visible proof. Certain criteria. Okay, thank you very, very much for being such a wonderful and attentive audience. I really appreciate your holding back and staying the extra time with us. And I've enjoyed spending this time with you. Really, I mean that sincerely.
Siddhartha